So, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of data spaces and sovereign data sharing, I welcome you warmly to this Data Spaces dialogue facilitated by International Data Spaces Association and the BAIDATA Association. My name is Thorsten Hülsmann. I'm one of the two managing directors of International Data Spaces Association. And in this Data Spaces dialogue, IDSA discusses certain topics on a strategic level which are dealing with sovereign data sharing and data sovereignty in Europe and beyond. I welcome you very warmly to this early data space dialogue, because usually it takes place a little bit later in the day, but today we are starting at 9 o'clock, and we are very happy that you decided to participate in this 1 hour live session. So the topic of today's data space dialogue is how BAIDATA ecosystem helps to realize true data spaces. And I am very, very happy, and also I'm very honored that I have 4 distinguished colleagues, experts, and well, data enthusiasts with me today. And I will just briefly introduce them. And Oscar, maybe you just start, say who you are, where are you working, and what are you doing with data spaces, briefly.
Thank you, Thorsten. Well, my name is Oscar Lazaro. I'm Managing Director of Innovalia Association, that is the associated research laboratory of the Innovalia group. But today I'm here representing the BAIDATA community, since I'm also responsible for the technical secretariat of the association BAIDATA for the development of the data economy. So Thorsten, really enthusiastic and looking into new ways of making data spaces a reality for industry and society.
Thank you, Oscar, for this short introduction. Second panelist today is Sergie Murillo Corzo. I hope I pronounced it halfway right. Sergio, please introduce yourself.
Yes, good morning. Thanks, Thorsten, and thank you, everybody. I am the Minister for Social Action in the government of Biscay, and we are responsible for every policy related to care and social services, mainly in our territory in Biscay, in the metropolitan area of Bilbao and beyond. And I will try to share with you afterwards what we are doing with data and with BAIDATA to improve our social services and care services in Biscay.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sergio. And maybe just to add, I learned during my last visit to Bilbao that Biscay is one of the 3 districts in the Basque country, right? So this is the area around Bilbao, as you rightly said. Perfect. Thank you very much, Sergio. So the third panelist is Begona Molinete. Begona, please shortly introduce yourself.
Thank you, Thorsten. Thanks to IDSA for the invitation to participate. Good morning, everyone. My name is Begona Molinete. I'm a project manager at the Basque Energy Cluster, which is an association of the main companies and stakeholders in the Basque country operating in the energy domain in the different energy value chains. And here today, together with Tecnalia from the Basque Energy Cluster, we are promoting data space for offshore wind energy, data sharing based on IDSA standard. And we would like to share our approach and the main topics in which we are working on at the moment.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Begona. And then we have Erik Maqueda. Please, Erik, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Thorsten, and good morning, everyone. I'm Erik Maqueda. I'm a senior researcher in Tecnalia, which is a research and technology center based in the Basque country. And we are working together with the Basque Energy Cluster in different projects around data spaces for the energy sector. And I'm specifically the technical coordinator of 2 of them that we will present later on.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Erik. And Yes, dear listeners and dear visitors, you see that we have a very knowledgeable round of people today. And what we will do is, and this is the agenda which I shortly introduce, we are listening to a input of Oscar on the BAIDATA association and the BAIDATA ecosystem itself. And then with the second input, Sergio will give us an introduction and an overview to the personal data space, which is facilitated by the Biscay regional government. And then as the third input, Begona and Erik will tell us something about the Basque energy cluster and some sovereign data sharing activities they are providing and facilitating. Afterwards, we have, as always, some minutes, hopefully, to answer some questions and also to get in a dialogue on the three topics, which are, of course, interconnected. And for those who are not familiar with GoToWebinar, whenever you have a question, you can also use the chat function. So please use the chat function. I try to pick up the questions and bring them into the dialogue as well. And I think then finally, also at the end, my colleague Andreas Kembügler in the background will open the camera and the mic for everyone. For this, please use the raise hand function that we can see who wants to speak up. All right, so these are the technical, so to say, technical instructions which I needed to share with you. And I think now we can start with Oscar. And Oscar, please tell us, BAIDATA, what is it? What are you doing there? And what is the background? You have the word.
Thank you, Thorsten. I hope that everyone can see my screen now. So let me introduce in the next few minutes what BAIDATA is, why it was born, and how we are trying to move forward with this goal and mission of making data spaces a reality. To go through the BAIDATA initiative, we will try to present to you just very briefly, in a nutshell, who we are, what we do, and then some areas of action that we are actually engaged and that we have been engaged for the last few months trying to accelerate the deployment of data spaces through the BAIDATA activities. So what is BAIDATA and where does it come from? Actually, we come as a result of the activities of the IDSA hub in Spain. So actually, we are built on very solid grounds, strong collaboration with the main initiatives behind the Data Space Business Alliance, like the International Data Space, the Gaia X initiative, highly connected with the European and international network of international data space association hubs, and with the support of very relevant clusters and institutions in the region that is actually hosting the headquarters of the association, which is the area that we cover. And basically, we are covering with our activities the whole Iberian Peninsula. We have our headquarters in Bilbao, and what we are basically aiming, and basically what we are aiming at is to provide access and support in the development of assets that are based on data space, international standards, and also to promote and accelerate the integration of those assets and different stakeholders across the Iberian Peninsula with European data space initiatives. The association itself was actually founded in May 2002, so we are a very young initiative, nonetheless very active and already achieving very impactful results. You can see that the group of companies that are actually conforming the board of BAIDATA is actually quite solid and quite diverse because it represents actually the ecosystem that is behind the initiative. You can see that there is a public-private partnership with representation of very large IT and vertical industries, as well as clusters, small medium enterprises, and the public government itself. How do we basically aim at bringing data spaces to life? Basically, we bring data spaces to life, accelerating and adopting and trying to implement the adoption acceleration program that has been proposed by IDSA. We are trying to bring to life not only the data space itself, but the acceleration for adoption program itself. So where do we start? Actually, we start from data sharing. And we know that data sharing is something not straightforward. It's a learning process, it's a collective activity, and entails some cultural change. And actually, this is what we have to facilitate as BAIDATA. This learning process, this collective set of activities, and in the end, the cultural change that will really realize the potential of the data economy. So how we are actually implementing this initiative? First of all, we are joining forces. We are joining forces from the demand, from the offer, from the public, from the private, from the large, from the medium, from the small companies, looking into regions, cities, and countries, looking into infrastructures, platforms, data, and solutions. It is only actually bringing all these stakeholders together, actually bringing different sectors under the same initiative that we are realizing real progress in this area. Our vision is that we need to provide some support in terms of positioning, articulating, accelerating, and framing the activities related to the development of data spaces. And for this, we have a very simple strategy. We need to link and connect. We need to learn, co-create, deploy, and align the activities in the different regions, in the different areas of the Iberian Peninsulas with the European and global activities dealing with data spaces. So it is a matter of pooling knowledge and initiatives into the different regions and territories and pushing our results to make sure that we get the right connectivity and the right opportunities for our local industry. Which are the two main areas that BAIDATA works? The first one is data quality. Without transforming data assets into data assets, it is quite difficult that we can ever create a data space. So we start from basics. We start from the beginning. We start looking at how to share and how to build these data quality assets. We are really aware that this process is time-consuming, it is a long-term activity, and it has quite a long learning curve. But we are starting. And as well, we are building on data spaces that should be built in international open standards. So we are adopting and implementing this type of standards. And then we are creating a trusted data sharing environment for entities and digital systems. And how we are making it? We are actually making it, providing a portfolio of services that are aimed at bringing sovereignty to the service of the data. We are not trying to push architecture, we are actually trying to make sovereignty work for the data in our ecosystems. Which are the activities that we are performing? Our theme and our lemma is actually learning by doing. We are basically based our activities in four main pillars: acceleration, talent, ecosystem, and knowledge. And we believe that this comprehensive and integrated vision actually brings all the elements that need to be brought concurrently to make data spaces reality. We need to make sure that our ecosystem has access to infrastructure, assets, platforms, digital offer. But it is equally important to develop the capacities, the capabilities for the people, and also to build the ecosystem in terms of trust, cultures, access to the data that we create, the data chains, and to run these pioneering business pilots that we will hear today. We will see that the ecosystem building activities based on cutting-edge infrastructure technology that rely on extensive knowledge on standards and best practices is probably the right pathway to achieve our goals. The second element is how we are creating community. Last year, we started with our first gathering of the BAIDATA community in our General Assembly, followed by the first BAIDATA Forum, where more than 250 participants joined us in Bilbao, and 150 followed our presentations, our plans remotely via online. I extend here the invitation to the whole community to join us in Bilbao again on June 14th for the second BAIDATA Forum. Become part of the community. You are also part of the community we are trying to build. Our second activity is actually to grow talent. We need to make sure that our ecosystem is ready both for the data space present and the data sharing economy of the future. And we are doing this through our training activities that have supported at this point in time over 150 professionals to get engaged, to know and to understand what a data space is, what is the value of data space, and what we can actually realize with the existing maturity of the technology facilitating data space. We will hear some examples later today of those professionals putting this talent and knowledge in action. And the third pillar is actually how to build ecosystems. We are focusing on building ecosystems on 3 dimensions: society, territory, and industry. Here we will, and today we will have some examples of how the BAIDATA partners are actually making sure that we can improve the quality of life of our society through deployment of data spaces and improve healthcare services. But we will also listen and learn how ecosystems can be built around the energy data space to make industry and the energy sector more competitive, not only in the region, but globally and across Europe. So in the last seconds, what is BAIDATA? BAIDATA is an initiative to create an ecosystem to accelerate the adoption of data space technology and actually to bring the different stakeholders, the different services from the demand, from the offer that are indispensable to implement a data space. How we are doing this? Basically based on 4 pillars of activities, 7 types of services, and focusing our activities on making a reality on 3 types of ecosystems. Do you want to collaborate? Very simply, get in touch with us, get in touch with the IDSA office. We are open for collaboration and ready to collaborate with any part of Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Oscar, for this very good and interesting overview. And let me also compare it. I mean, we have seen in the last months that data ecosystems pop up here and there. Maybe the most visible or well, the biggest ones are, for instance, things like mobility data space started in Germany, or the Catena X automotive data sharing ecosystem. But I think what is worthwhile and what is really interesting that this one here is cross-domain. As you rightly mentioned, and it is more starting maybe from a regional, national perspective. This is I think very interesting. And I think what also came at least to my spontaneous reaction when I'm thinking about data spaces and the use cases they are used. I'm always thinking about industry. I'm thinking about maybe mobility, smart city. But you mentioned also social well-being, health, putting the people into the focus of this data space activities is really interesting. And this brings me to our second input for today. Sergio will present us how the Biscay government or what the Biscay government is doing exactly to bring people in the focus of data spaces activities. And therefore, we are waiting, Sergio, for your input. The floor is yours.
Thank you really much once again. And yes, I will try to share with you. Can you confirm if you can see my slides? Is it,
we see it. Yes, we see it. Perfect.
Yeah, I will just share who we are and which are our aims from the starting point in which we are. One of our core competencies in the government of Biscay, and as you said, we are 1.1 million inhabitants in the vast area of the Basque region in the north of Spain, the southern part of the Pyrenees, just washed by the Atlantic, the Bay of Biscay, in fact, in the Atlantic Ocean. And one of our main competencies is the management of care issues and social services. As far as we are we do have this responsibility. Our aim in these last 4 years has been to start a modernizing process of care system in Biscay, which affects quite a lot of people, relatively a big amount of people in our territory. As you can see, one of our main responsibilities are the nursing homes, in which we have 10,000 people living in there and 21,000 people care at home and their carers. Those are the two of our focuses at this very moment, in which we are trying to modernize the care system, and data is playing a great role in that sense. Our aim, and just going into which is the focus, looking at home, personalizing. Data can help in personalizing that, we do think so, but also in improving quality of life of the whole care ecosystems at home, in trying to push and boost the life quality of people in need of care. That's why we started this trip, and BAIDATA is helping us to get those objectives. So what we started doing, and it has been quite a long work and quite a long trip in time, but we were using just data to manage social services, to give cash allowances, to assign a nursing home to one person in need of care, but we needed to go beyond, and we started to describe with data the users and the profiles of our, let's say, customers. And the last but not the least was going to start preventing, and to start preventing the prior phase up to here, when we have opened some data, was to focus on preventing the dependency, the undesired institutionalization, and care overload, even in social care, even in social services related to health services. But in social care, we do have some objectives, some human objectives that can be achieved through data and through better data management. And that's the step forward that we did a few months ago, after getting prepared, and the whole ecosystems and BAIDATA has played a role in there, help us to do this, to make this step, to go beyond in a secure manner, because care data, as you can imagine, are sensible data. So it's needed to be done, to open data and to open our knowledge to some other people, some other agents, some other providers, some other people that can help to get to new solutions for new needs, for new challenges, for new goals that I have stated before. We need new people to come in our trip. The new ideas are not only produced at home, can be produced together. That's why we started this trip, to share the data. And in this way, last November, and that's our first very small step, but important from our side, in which we have done all the previous work, which was really relevant for everyone in our institution to feel comfortable with this way, that I think that has no way back, but that will be will need new steps, but need to be done in a secure and absolutely confident space and context. So we started modeling the data set that we were going to open for a challenge, an open innovation challenge. We started an anonymization process of personal data, which are very sensible: health, dependency status, income status, sex, and many other data that we do have for the assessment of dependency level. minimizing risks of this opening process, of course, building up the needed confidence of the GDPR data protection manager in our institution, which is quite at the end quite, let's say, conservative. Should be, and it has to be like this. But it is important that we made her feel comfortable on the opening process and sharing process of data. The work was done by 19 people involved in the process. Long time, 9 months of work in doing once and again the reviewing and trying to improve, implement new levels of assurance, and with a multidisciplinary team coming from social action department, technicians from IT, and consultancy and data protection officer. And the process that we started in November, at the end, after all those 9 months of work, internal work, was launching the challenge to the public, to the providers, to any agent that could feel that could make a step forward or make a difference for the people living at home, to avoid their undesired institutionalization, and trying to help those people in need of care and their carers at home. So how can we do this? That was the question that we launched. And we designed a two-step process in which we share, in the first step, in the first phase, we share a fictitious data set in which 16 companies show their interest, and we received 14 proposals based on that fictitious data set, and 3 were selected to go to the second round or to the second phase, in which we started verifying before giving them the real data set of 70,000 records and 43,000 homes with people in need of care identified in there, and describe when they started that process, the reviews of their dependency levels, their health data, their many issues that with many data and information that we do have. And in there, BAIDATA was a key partner and a key support platform for us, because it gave us a big level of security for the track record of the use of the data set, and that it was made confidentially and not shared in a non-authorized manner. So that's in the phase where we are. As you can see, by the 20th of April next month, we will be receiving the last proposals, in which we will invest an amount of money to be deployed as a prototype, that solution. So that solution of those two companies that have gone to the second phase, we will be investing in them, and they will be giving us a prototype of solution or a proposal of solution, in which we have to decide to launch or not afterwards a public procurement process for that solution that they may be proposing to us, and that we will be assuming as a service or as a support service for our services for care. That's where we are. That's the point in which we are, and the way that we think that data can serve even the care sector and quality of life of people. Just to underline few questions, very few questions that we have learned in the whole process, is that intensive of critical process of anonymization and minimization of risk have to be led by the public authority and by the sectoral, by the social action department. In that case, can be led by us, for the people, for the providers, and for the whole institution to feel comfortable. And this means learning and having on board a big amount of people, a big amount of professionals from other areas that are sometimes, for which sometimes it's awkward. The care sector and the care key issues are a little bit awkward, but we have to have them on board, and we have to start talking about the same language, and we have to start talking the same language. BAIDATA gave us security on the access, and that was really important for the data officer in our institution. And a big conclusion that we feel that there will be no new answers for those big challenges that we do have in Europe and in Biscay, of course, on demographic change and aging of population, if we are not working together. And data has to play a role, and we need other agents, not only institutional agents. And BAIDATA brings this also to us, the kind of different agents coming for cooperation and to look forward new responses for the present and the future of care. Well, that's what I wanted to share, and I will be ready for the debate and the questions that you may have, or for the exchange that we may have in the forthcoming minutes. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much for this very insightful input. And I think it is also very interesting to see and to witness, I would say, maybe the didactical approach you take, because it is also, as you described, challenging for all parties to trust to each other. And I think this is really explained in a very good way. So we come to any potential topics later, but first we want to listen to the third input we will have today. So we are leaving the sphere or the area of social well-being and health or care, and coming now to an industry area, which is the energy domain. And as said in the introduction, Begona and Erik will share the input. So Begona, I think you will start, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Thorsten. I hope you can see the presentation now running.
Yes, we see everything.
Yeah, thanks for the confirmation. So together, Erik and I will show you, or will present the highlights of one of the use cases in which we are currently working on, related to offshore wind farm. This is and one of the energy domains in which we identify there is a great opportunity for data sharing, and in this way we start some years ago developing jointly several R&D projects, which have allowed us to build some of the pieces, of the necessary pieces to provide this data space on offshore wind farm operation. This is work in progress for sure. There is still a long way to run, but we will show you at the point we have achieved right now, and the next steps and how we are putting all the pieces together to develop this use case. This offshore wind turbine data sharing has been identified and set as one of the use cases at the IDSA Data Space Radar, as you can see there, and well, jointly developed by the Basque Energy Cluster and Tecnalia. And regarding the motivation to go for this use case, it comes basically from the industry side. Renewable energy generation costs have dropped dramatically during the last decade. That's a fact. Mainly due to the improvements in the technology and in solar PV panels and the wind turbine components. But the fact is that the reducing of this cost reducing has a limit as far as investment costs are concerned. And now the focus is set on reducing the operation costs. And in that sense, the data coming from the renewable energy facilities is an invaluable asset in order to improve this operation cost and to develop ICT-based tools that can help the decision makers to make the right decisions and to optimize the operation of these energy generation facilities. Actually, the kind of data that can be get from these renewable energy plants is very diverse, very heterogeneous, and that poses a challenge for the developers of solutions, of ICT-based solutions, in order to combine all this data, to develop the suitable tools and to help the operators and the owners to make the right decisions. The problem on this scenario is that for the moment, the data, the operation data from offshore wind farms are concentrated in a very few hands. And wind farm operators and the OEMs, which are let's say the data owners, the most relevant data owners, are for the moment rather reluctant to share this data with the stakeholders in the supply chains. And for that reason, many European component suppliers and ICT companies are currently missing an opportunity, a great opportunity to develop new products and new services to help these data owners, to these facility owners, to help them improve their competitiveness and to make the right decisions. And also they are missing the opportunity to improve their own product design through digitalization. So the fact is that due to this reluctancy on data sharing, this lack of confidence, all the stakeholders involved are missing a great opportunity to innovate jointly, to make the most of this data, which in some cases is already available. Let's say not always in good enough quality, quantity, and availability, but the data is there. The sensors and the monitoring tools are most of the time set, and the data set is there, but it's not being exploited in the most suitable way. So for all these reasons, we identified that this offshore wind farm use case could be a good opportunity to work further on and to exploit the concept of data sharing and to align with the IDSA approach. So the value proposition for this, on the one side, there is a technology push approach. What we intend is to design offshore wind digital platform, very aligned to the IDSA reference architecture and all the components, in order to facilitate data sharing between the data owners and the data users. That's a challenge, of course, but I would say even a greater challenge is to develop or to define a suitable business model to make all the stakeholders involved aware that this is a win-win approach, that if they agree to share their data, all the partners, all the stakeholders win, because the manufacturers improve the designs and reduce the cost of their products, and the data owners can improve the operation cost of the facilities and reduce operation cost and make the right decisions at the right time. And these both approaches, from the technology side on the business side, are complemented from the data sovereignty perspective and contribute to enrich the IDSA ecosystem and components. And of course, it's very well aligned also with the good momentum in Europe, with the EU data strategy and the digitalization of energy action plan. We identified some key impacts from this approach. Better market share for the component manufacturers, of course, improving competitiveness for European ICT companies, and in terms of cost reduction, this approach could lead to, let's say, 8 to 12% reduction in OPEX, operational cost, and also around 5% reduction in terms of investment cost reduction related to the improved design of the components and the products. So what we intend to develop, as mentioned, is a digital platform to facilitate data exchange, data operation related to offshore wind farms. And if you see the different layers identified, you can find on top the data owners, basically the wind farm owners and developers who own and operate the wind farms, and the wind turbine OEMs, manufacturers, which who in most of the cases are signing the contract with the customers and have exclusive rights to collect, use, and manage the data obtained from the wind turbines for the different purposes. Those stakeholders are on top of the top layers, and down all the, let's say, data users, companies in the offshore wind value chain that may benefit from having access to the data that the top layers provide. Tier 2 and 3 suppliers of components for the wind turbine, engineering firms that design the equipment, they can improve the design of the products. Of course, the ICT companies, all the ICT companies providing or making use of technologies such as big data, data analytics, artificial intelligence, and all these ICT-based algorithms apply to the data available. And last but not least, all the academia, research centers, university that support all the manufacturers and developers in the value chain. So this is how the different stakeholders can interact. And now I will let my colleague Erik to explain the technological approach on the digital platform and how the pieces are built together thanks to collaboration in the different R&D projects we are working on.
Thank you very much, Begoña. Okay, so for building this digital platform, we did an extensive research. We talked with different organizations, and in the end, we came up with the conclusion that a data space fulfill all the requirements regarding all the data security, privacy, and sovereignty that was required for this use case. So we created this federated data space for the offshore wind energy, and we did that mainly supported by two main projects. So if you can go to the next slide, Begoña. Yeah. Thank you. So the first project was the EKIN project, which is a project funded by the Basque government. And here we started launching, thanks to the Basque Energy Cluster, a working group with different companies that were interested on sharing data for wind turbine components. So this included wind turbine component manufacturers, but also ICT players, and also some research and technology center and universities. So based on this, we gathered the requirements and we built an MVP of a data space that allowed to share data from these data owners to data users and prove this concept. Also, and we think that we realized that it was very important. We worked together with these participants on the business aspect, because obviously it can be done. We proved that it could be done technologically, but there needs to be some business behind that actually support this. So we worked also on this we defined different business models with them and so on. Okay, and then the next project, next slide, please, Begoña. So the next project was Platoon, which is a Horizon 2020 project, where we brought this MVP to the next level. So in this case, we collaborated with two other, NG as a data provider, and BUB, which is a university that developed a data-driven predictive maintenance tool. And as you can see there, we built an energy data space that allowed not only to share data, but also services. So in this case, NG shared data with Tecnalia and BUB, and we process this data, in our case with a hybrid digital twin that we developed, and this data was sent back to NG and also to BUB to provide predictive maintenance service to NG. And this was done implementing a full suite of IDS components, and also we used a common semantic data model. So as Oscar was saying about describing these data assets, so we all speak the same language and we all describe the data sets using the same language. So next slide, please. So and now these two projects has finished, but we are working on other projects, especially on NRSER and Omega X, where together with another 3 projects we are establishing the grounds for a common European energy data space based on open standards such as Gaia-X, IDSA, and so on. We are also collaborating there with IDSA. And also we are working in BeerGrid, which is not really related to data sharing, but it is focused on deploying the analytics at the edge, which in our opinion is complementary to this, and depending on the application, in some cases it's not only data sharing but deploying the services at the edge, and we are working in this complementary approach. And that's it from our side. Thank you very much. If you have any question.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Erik, and thank you very much, Begona, for this very interesting and also insightful input on the energy domain. And I think also here, like in the social area, the challenges are clearly addressed. And I think, as Begona explained, especially the new business models and the new roles in data ecosystems are really crucial, because this means that maybe for a short time, a company has to step back from earning a bunch of money, but on the long run, of course, this will help the company to earn much more, and this is a challenge. And I think we can discuss on this in a second. But let me jump back to the input of Sergio, because there we also had challenges. And I would be interested, in your case, what have been the organizations which have faced the biggest challenges? Was it more from your internal agencies of the government to convince them to deal with sovereign data sharing, or was it more the companies or the organizations who are working in the care system, or was it maybe the individual person? Where, from your experience, the challenges occurred most?
Yeah, that's with absolute, really, it was thinking that we could open a data set to external stakeholders, because even the IT development in our institution has always been done by an internal company, a company that is owned by ourselves. It's a proper, I mean, and there's we do manage, our institution also collects taxes, so we do have every data on every person that in our territory is paying taxes. So it's data has been because of taxation issues, but also because of social issues, a very sensible issue in our organization. And sometimes even the way of organizing ourselves, the way of working with our IT providers has been determined by that sensibility and consciousness. So opening the data set, even if really small, even was like breaking the, in fact, was breaking the egg, or opening a way that that a door that has not been opened before. And the main, we all were afraid, because even if they were absolutely anonymized, if the risk of anonymizing and identifying someone was almost below 1%, everyone was saying, okay, let's gain a new level, an additional level of security, and let's make a new exercise of anonymization. It was like working in a book, but we felt that it is being responsible and at the same time a bit frightened about opening those data. So that was the exercise that we did. BAIDATA helped us, and it was internal, but it's a cultural issue that was in our organization. And I told you which are the issues that I have had identified in advance as barriers to sharing, to working with data, and was that our very beginning is taxation data, tax data is our core competencies are taxation, and in the side of expenditure is social care. So both have very sensible data, and it was cultural protection before going quicker and looking to new challenges. So that was that's why we spent 9 months, a lot of people working. We have the estimation of the costs of that process, and it was not easy and it was not cheap because of the dedication of people in that area to that work that is not known by anyone out of the process when we go out with the challenge and the Open Innovation Challenge, but it was a cultural shift that was needed. And well, and I think that working with the people that have been working, which is really responsible, really well considered inside the organization, was another part of the key issues to get to open the door and to have the data set open to two providers in this case. And this is also another issue. Not opening in an only round, just one round, but having a two-step process also helped us to feel for everyone to feel more comfortable. So but cultural issue was an internal cultural issue was the main challenge and the main barrier to start this way that I think, and I confess to you in the very beginning of my presentation, it has no way back.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you for this insights. And maybe giving again the word to Begona or to Erik. Is it comparable to the energy industry? Because I could imagine when you are talking about this, I mean, it is, I don't know if it is a disruption, but it is shuffling the ecosystem or the business, the value chain. When you are talking that component suppliers will be put in a different position by this data sharing or sovereign data sharing aspects, and the business models which will occur could play or help them to gain a competitive advantage. So is this already happening, or is it just at the beginning? Is it just the start of a journey? I would be very much interested how you see this from inside the energy industry.
Maybe I can start it, and if you can complement, Erik, feel free. Okay, I would say humbly, it's the beginning of the journey, because in some cases, most of the component manufacturers come from a very, let's say, industrial, traditional industrial perspective, and they have, the first step is for them to get familiar with the digitalization, with the ICT technologies. And in some cases, they are not familiar at all with that word. They have to learn. And in that sense, I mean, it's very important, the role and the support from research centers such as Tecnalia and R&D organizations in order to support them in the way. And then secondly, yes, the business model changes completely, because they have been selling product for a long time, very reliable product. You may know that the Basque industry is very well known for reliability, to be trustable, but they have to change the business model completely and start not only selling product but selling services. And that That's not the typical approach. You sell a product and you forget about it until you get a call from the operator. Right? It's not running, come quickly. No, you have to sell a service from the very beginning. Continuous services, you have to get people trained on board to provide a service, which is normally based on ICT technologies. And that changes completely the business perspective and the business model for the companies. And if they are, let's say, medium companies, well, maybe they can get, they be flexible and get on the way quickly. But for the small companies, it's the effort that they have to make is huge. So I would say we are at the beginning of the way, and I will let Erik contradict me or add compliment.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I think it's the beginning, and I would add on top that there are, I would say, two main barriers. On the one hand, also the OEMs are the actual customers of the component manufacturers. So obviously, they don't want, the component manufacturers, they don't want to do anything that can put in risk their current business. So it goes slowly. And also what we mentioned before, that and a bit, I think, linked to what Sergie was saying, is that regarding for example, the wind farm operators, that they are maybe more willing to share data, but at the same time, they are not willing to share it just for sharing. They want to get something in return. So it is a bit the chicken and the egg situation sometimes, because they don't want to share data, but they want the component manufacturers to show value. So it is just to finding the balance on that.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I think this is what we can also observe in many other data ecosystem approaches and implementations. Oscar, from the BAIDATA Secretariat, when you are now observing the two cases here, what is your job in the future? I mean, you drafted it in your input, but here concretely on this use cases, where will we stand in 6 months or so, or maybe in 12 months? I don't know. This would be of interest, I think.
Okay, Thorsten. So I think one of the things that we are learning in this process of setting up these connections between different regions that are investing in development of these data spaces is that there are a lot of things to be learned at the beginning before each of the sectors depart in their own domain-specific discussions, business model, business processes. So I think what we will see probably in the next, not in the 6 months, but probably in a year time, is that some of these first steps that Sergio was mentioning, it was hard to open the door, but once it is open, apparently there is a lock in there and will never go back. So what we need to make sure is that the right people, not a lot of people. I'm not really thinking that we will see an explosion in the participants on the data spaces, but I think Erik was really pointing out the key element. Variable stakeholders will participate in these data spaces because you have seen that both Erik, Begonia, Sergio, they were mentioning that there is a compliance issue. There is a level of IT maturity, operation conditions, business value that needs to be met by these new participants. So making sure that these participants that are identified by the ecosystems have the right and the ability to participate in the ecosystem. That is really our mission. So not just organically or exponentially growth in terms of participants, but really make sure that it's a valuable participation that we can guarantee in these data spaces.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Oscar, for this input, which could be also already a summary, because I'm always surprised that 60 minutes are over very fast, and therefore we have to conclude and come to an end. So first of all, thank you very much for your valuable inputs. Unfortunately, we can always scratch on the surface and not make a deep dive, but you saw, I think, that we have here strategical important topics, which will also let's say, keep us busy in the next years. And therefore, thank you very much for this input. I want to point to two more things. Oscar mentioned June 14, the BAIDATA Forum. Please mark this in your calendar and join in Bilbao. And then also I want to point to the publications, for instance, are shared here, the Data Spaces Radar report, but also the Data Connector report, which are very important and interesting publications which are published by IDSA. Have a look there and join whenever you can. So this is it for today. Unfortunately, a little bit in a hurry. Again, thank you very much to the panelists, and thank you very much for the listeners. Have a very good day, and I wish you all the best. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day.